Hey guys, so I just want to quickly give you an overview of what you're going to be working on and why this is important for the class. So, we've talked about credibility for the past couple of days. You've explored a little bit about how to find credibility. And now I really want you to have the opportunity to see some news sources that you'll probably come across very regularly in the class and begin to understand their bias in terms of media bias, as well as understanding the different levels of credibility and why certain sources are more credible than others. So, if we go to Google Classroom, you'll see that there's a new assignment posted under EOC Part A, and it's called Credibility Jamboards. And so you have three things that you need to do today. The first one is going to be this media bias Jamboard. The second one is going to be the credibility tiers Jamboard. And then the last one is a reflection that you will write in about a paragraph. So if we go over to the media bias one, what you're going to see is that there are three sections that you can look at. The first one is more left, the second one is central or unbiased, and the third one is more right. All I want you to do is kind of pull the pieces where you think they fit the most. Okay, so where do you think they fall? If you're not sure, a good place that you can look is All Sides. So we've talked about All Sides before. It's a website that will show you kind of which way these different news outlets lean. And another is on your Google Slides for part 8. There's actually this media bias chart that we went over a few days ago, and it will show you if it falls any more left or more right or more neutral section of the spectrum. So that's what you're going to do with this one. And before you say, okay, well, you already gave us the chart, why do we have to do this? It's very important that you go through and look at each of these individually because I know y'all, I know you did not look at this. I know that you did not sit here and stare at each one of these little things individually, okay? So it's important that you become pretty familiar with some of these because these are going to be things that you come across. You've probably already come across them in the class and just having a general understanding of where they fall on that political spectrum. So, this is the first thing that you're going to do. Then you're going to jump over to the credibility tiers. And the way that I want you to think about credibility tiers is that obviously some sources are going to be more credible than others because of the type of research that goes into the source itself. Um, so over here, we have the least credible, which is going to be tier 5. So things such as Wikipedia, social media, blogs, general sites. What you'll notice about tier 5 is that this is pretty much something that anyone can change or anyone can create. So anyone can create a blog, anybody can go onto Wikipedia and make changes, anybody can go onto social media and say something. There's no credibility that's involved in determining whether or not somebody has the authority to talk about whatever it is that they're talking about. It's just someone on the internet. Okay, so that's tier 5. Then we have tier 4. So things like popular magazines, popular media, things that people read just on a kind of a daily basis. You might see it in like the doctor's office or the dentist office. You can think about those sort of things that maybe it doesn't necessarily mean that they're not researched. It's just that it's less about providing credible evidence to people and more about just getting information out there. And so they might not include as much credible information and they might not cite a lot of information because it's really just about informing the general public about a topic. Okay. Then we have tier 3, which is going to be reputable newspapers or news organizations and reputable just organizations in general. So these are things that people trust, people believe, in general, tell the truth, tell facts, but they might not, again, they might not publish a lot of credible information in terms of providing you the sources where they got their information. Okay. So that's going to be a lot of the same stuff that you might have come across here. So people give money to it. There might be a lot of people that rely on it for their information, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're providing you a complete story or that they are providing you credible information with where they got their information. Tier 2, so we're over here now, we're almost to most credible, is specialized publications or government sources. So these are going to be more niche in terms of making sure that experts are writing about the topic because it is a more niched publication. This usually means that They've been fact checked. Someone has gone through and made sure that the sources are credible. It goes through a bit more of a process than just a typical popular magazine or popular news source. Government sources, you might be surprised that this is here and it's not the most credible. A lot of that is going to be because some things are going to be released at a later date, depending on whether or not it's been sealed for certain reasons. So it might not be as credible in terms of time anymore. The government does have control, obviously, about the narrative that it wants to tell the world about itself. So what it does and does not choose to share with both its citizens and the worldwide population is going to vary greatly based on who is in charge of that decision. And so that is where everything it will fall for tier two. Then we have tier one, and that's going to be your most credible information. So here we're talking about peer reviewed academic journals. So not just newspapers, not just places where they've done fact checking or they provide credible information, but these sources have been written by experts. They've gone through a process of being sent to this publication. The publication has had multiple people who are also experts in the field review the information, make sure that if it is a study that is done, that the study is replicable, making sure that the study done is ethical, making sure that the outcome of any study or any sort of research done matches up with the field and what's already being said. And if not, it addresses that efficiently, making sure that all of the evidence is credible and none of it is biased, nor is it has it found to be untrue. So it's not questioned at the moment. So that is going to be your peer-reviewed journals. That also includes books because, again, when it comes to books, while some of them, yes, can have information that is not factual, that's not the kind of books that we're necessarily talking about here. Also, we have to remember that when it comes to books, there's a lot of money behind books, and when people purchase a book on their own to learn something or to gain information, if they find that the company is publishing false information, that company can get into quite a bit of legal trouble, and they can lose a lot of money. So it's less likely that you're going to see things that are published in nonfiction books be pointed to be untrue in the fact that people knew they were untrue or that they weren't fact checked. But the books that we're really talking about here are going to be things more like your textbooks or your very much respected nonfiction books that people read for historical basis in terms of having like first person accounts, making sure that they have historical documents integrated into them, those kinds of books. So not a novel on the shelf, not, something written by a random lady that's self-published, but something that's actually written to inform the public and that's gone through quite a bit of fact checking to make sure that everything is legal and everything is true. So those are your credibility tiers. And so what you're going to do here is you are going to, again, just pull these guys kind of where they fall. Okay. I'm not expecting you to get these 100% correct. You will probably have to do quite a bit of Googling to see what these things are. So all you need to do is go over to Google and, like, if I don't know what the Lancet is, for instance, I might go to the Wikipedia page about the Lancet and I would read some information. So I know it's a weekly peer-reviewed journal is what it says. It's a peer-reviewed journal or a general medical journal. So we can already tell if we go back over here that the Lancet is going to be over here because it's a peer-reviewed journal, right? And so that is what you will do, and Wikipedia will be your best friend for this. Again, the reason that we want to do this is because I want you to have a very strong familiarity with some of these titles, some of these different organizations to make sure that you know where they fall on the spectrum. When we get to writing your own papers and crafting your own arguments, it's very important that you're able to use the most credible information that you can possibly get your hands on rather than just settling for tier 3 or 4 because it's easy to access. So we will talk about this a lot more, but those are the first two things that you want to do. The final thing that you're going to do is you're going to open a Google Doc and you're going to write a quick reflection for me. This doesn't need to be very long, but about a paragraph just to be able to answer these questions. So how would you use credibility tiers in determining whether an author is using credible information? What impact does recognizing media bias have on an argument and providing credible evidence? When determining the level of credibility tier, which part of Raven did you use the most? And then is there a time or a place to use a lower credibility source or biased news source? If so, when? And how should you acknowledge that? So again, just take into consideration what we've talked about in the past. And this is, like I said, it's mostly just a reflection and seeing where you stand and what you think about some of these things. So that is your assignment for today. You may work with a partner on the Jamboards if you would like to. So if you have a friend that either you're with or you want to call or whatever it is that you want to do, that's totally fine with me. Y'all can talk about it together, but please don't split the assignment in half. This is not something that you're just doing for fun. This is actually going to be really beneficial for you to remember some of these things once we get into analysis and evaluation again of other authors' arguments, as well as crafting your own. So please do not skip through it. Don't rush through it. Spend your time on it. And then be sure, of course, to email me if you have any questions at all. All right.